You're listening to Jeremy Vaeni's Paratopia vlog, right here on YouTube.
Paratopia, Jeremy Vaeni here. Freshly showered, as you can see. Tuesday, March 29th is upon us. The day of reckoning, or at least the day of my sophomore appearance as an author. So, the book is called Urgency, and it is not just a book, but an experiment to transform you. The first part of the book is speaking to you, the reader, and it may sound oddly dictatorial or judgmental simply because I'm negating a lot of things, so it's a lot of Debbie Downer information, and directing it to you, so I say you a lot, and I think that sounds like you know, but it's really not that. It's just I'm trying to speak to you as a person. And then in the second part of the book, I'm trying to bypass you and speak directly to the brain as the brain. So there's a lot of, it's a lot of heady concepts and all of that, a lot of epiphanies and, facts and truths on the human condition. And it is, I'm gearing it to do sort of two things. One is to tucker you out in your thinking process, to just tire you, and then also to kill you, and then to speak to the brain directly. It's like, okay, now I'm done with the reader. Now let's get down to brass tacks here, because the reader was never real to begin with. But I got to get you to a point where you acknowledge that, and then once you acknowledge that because it's true, and you have no choice but to see it's true, then what happens? Is it possible to transform a human being with a book? Well, I certainly read a bunch of Jiddu Krishnamurti books, and I got what he was saying, and in that moment was transformed. And this is completely different than, well, similar to, I guess, but more honest than people who have sort of rebirth experiences through various Bibles and religions and stuff like that. Because ultimately, they've still got this image in mind of what they're achieving. They've got this self-fulfilling prophecy at the end of the road, and therefore the self is at the end of the road. So if the goal is to get rid of the self, to dissolve the self, you can't do that if you've got this self-fulfilling prophecy at the end of it. But the mechanism is eerily similar. So will that happen with this book? Will it transform you? I don't know. I do know that, it's... I try to make it light as possible, with, the comedy. And I try not to make the verbiage too taxing, but there are some places where it's just going to be that. And it's okay. And if you don't get it in, one reading, like me, when I read a book and I don't get something, my eyes just go over the page and over the page again and again and again. And I suggest not doing that, because in the second part of the book, it's going to be sort of a recycling of the first part of the book, the same but different. And ultimately, I think that this stuff will work on you unconsciously, whether you consciously get it all in one fell swoop or not. And if none of that happens, then at least you've read kind of a cool book with some new stuff that I know you've never heard before, because it's never been said before. A lot of it has been said before, but there are some new things in there. Of that I am confident. Ting! So let's talk a little bit about evolution, shall we? Like, why is this necessary? How is this possible? La la la. Well, if you're Darwinian, right, you think that evolution from the animal into the person is all about survival, right? Which makes no sense, because we don't really need this brand of self-awareness that we have to survive predators. I mean, really, we just need bigger muscles and whatever to survive other predators. Or flight would be cool, or gills. I don't know. I'm just saying, we don't need to be able to comprehend symbols and math and make metaphor out of the literal. But that's what our brains do, right? We're these sort of problem-solving machines, in a way. That's crude. But we are problem solvers, and most of the problems are, at this point, are mental. So we've got this mental space, we've got these interior domains that we've evolved into understanding and exploring and all of that. So part of, I mean, what are we talking about there, really? What did we evolve into? We evolved into responsibility. We evolved, with this sense of self and this self-awareness comes responsibility for us, and as stewards of nature, or what have you. And so, I think with that, so you evolve basically from an unconsciousness into consciousness, or from a lesser consciousness into a more richer self-awareness. And that transformative moment is not controlled by you. It's at the whim of nature, universal intelligence, whatever you want to call it. It's at the whim of something that's not you. And then you evolve into this being, this human, that has whims and choice. And so then one of those choices becomes whether or not you evolve yet again. You see? So the evolutionary impulse becomes conscious. It becomes a conscious choice. And so when we hear that, I think what we wrongly assume is that we're then the center of our own universe. You know, we're the masters of our own destiny, and we create our own reality and all that New Age stuff. But that's not it. That's all a mistake. And the mistake is in thinking that you can evolve the sense of self into the next thing. You can't. You can evolve the sense of self in the sense that you can explore interior domains. You can explore the exterior world. You can rise through states and stages of consciousness, and that's all a self-evolution, but that's not the transformative moment. That's not the puncturing of reality into the next thing. For that to happen, this has to die. The sense of self has to dissolve while the body remains alive, in the same way that animals did. So how do you choose to do that? Well, in an ironic twist of paradoxical proportions, the choice is no choice. The choice is to stop doing things, because everything that you're doing to evolve is your self-fulfilling prophecy, is you as a director directing. So when you, the director, stops directing, there's this moment of stillness, and in that moment of stillness, something magical takes place. And I won't spoil it, but there it is. And so, do I think that I can activate that with words? It happened to me, so maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Do I have the chops as a writer to do that? That's really the question. I have no idea. But I'm going to give it my college best, because you got to do something, right? So this is that. This is that stab at doing something right in this world instead of all the self-serving crap that I've been doing, previously with everything. I mean, that's what we do, right? So there it is. that's what this book is. It is a spiritual experiment that may or may not work, but at the end of it, I think you'll at least, I mean, if it goes wrong, the worst thing that happens is you've got a lot of new stuff to think about. If it goes right, then you've stopped thinking. And in that moment of stopped thinking comes next. And I'll say no more.